Hi guys, and welcome at the visual release notes for accounting in Odoo 13. It is already the second one. We discussed before Odoo release notes for 13.2. This one will be all about 13.3 and 13.4. We have some nice features for you to discuss today, but the biggest one will be all about the payments refactoring. This one will be discussed immediately. It's the biggest change in this version. Another one that is quite big as well is finally the multi-currency revaluation that landed in Odoo. We will also discuss how you can exclude now accounts from the automatic tax closing entry. We will see the new beautiful list views only for accounting. They will be everywhere in Odoo, but we're going to see what's new for accounting. And we're going to discuss several less visible improvements, but are also worth talking about. Of course, there are a lot of other features that will not be discussed today, but they are less visible and maybe less important to discuss as highlights. First of all, we're going to discuss the payments refactoring. How does it work? You will notice that on every bank journal, you will have three new fields: the outstanding receipts account, the outstanding payments account, and the bank suspense account. The first one we're going to see is the bank suspense account. It's a huge change because every time that you will create a new bank statement now, all transactions will immediately be processed on this bank suspense account, which basically means that your bank statements will always be posted immediately, will always be updated because the posting is immediately as from the moment that you create the bank transactions. But the counterpart will be posted on the bank suspense account. Once you will reconcile them with invoices or post them on another account, we will replace the bank suspense account by the account that is chosen in the reconciliation. The other two accounts, so the outstanding receipts and outstanding payment account, will be used as a transfer account when you will register payment. So before, when you register a payment on an invoice or on a vendor bill, the counterpart of the invoice was immediately the bank account. So the account that you can see here as a default debit account and the default credit account. Now, thanks to this new feature, we will use some transfers account between the moment that you post the payment and the moment that you reconcile the payment in the bank statement. So what are the advantages? First of all, for the transfer account, you will be more easily be able to track outstanding payments that are not yet reconciled with the bank statement. And for the suspense account, well, thanks to the suspense account, your bank statements will be updated in real time because on all the time they will be booked, processed immediately on the bank statement. So no more balance sheets with a bank account that is not updated. You can see the video immediately by clicking on the button here that will show you how it looks like. Let's take a look how it looks in Odoo. So first of all, go to the bank journal in the configuration. And in the configuration, when you go to the journal entries, you will see the three new fields. Fill them in every time with the outstanding payment account. And once it's done, we will see how it works. So create a customer invoice, for example. Create on a customer, in my example, Wynand. Add a line for a specific amount. So in my case, I will just use 750 euros. Once the invoice is posted, let's register a payment. So we're going to register a payment for the whole amount. So the invoice is now in payment. And we're going to do the same with the vendor bill. So when we create the bill, let's process it also on Wynand. Also there, let's create a line for 1,000 euros, for example. I remove the taxes just to make it easy to understand. Once they are validated both and registered a payment on both, let's see how it looks like in the accounting. So when we go to the journal entries, we can see now that if we filter on the journal, so in our case the bank journal, we have two transactions that have been created. When I open the first one, I can see that the counterpart is a transfer account that I configured on the bank journal. Also, for the vendor bill or for the customer invoice, I have the correct account that is posted. So nothing is posted on the bank account yet because we did not process the bank statement yet. So now go to the second step and let's import or create a bank statement. You can see immediately the outstanding payments from here. You can see the ones that are not yet reconciled with the bank statement. We're going to create a new bank statement just to reconcile those entries. So the first one is for the incoming payment for the customer invoice. So it's for 750 euros. You see immediately on the top that we have a new stage, which is the processing stage. It's from the moment that the bank statement is on the processing stage that everything will be processed on the suspense account. So this, of course, is done automatically by, you will see if you post it, you will not be able to post it as long as the ending balance will not correspond to the computed balance. So you have to compute it immediately correct, but this is done by the bank synchronization automatically. So let's put it manually here so that we can post it. Now that we post it, we go to the processing stage. So at this moment, we will see in the journal entry is created that the counterpart is done immediately on the suspense account. So at this moment, your bank statements are already up to date in the balance sheet. The counterpart is each time the suspense account. So now let's reconcile those entries. And if we reconcile them with the payments that we created before, we can just validate. And we reconcile the payments with the bank transactions. Okay, so now we can see that we have two new accounting entries that have been created. First of all, we can see that they have been booked thanks to our registered payments on the transfer accounts, and thanks to the bank account, it is reconciled against the transfer account. So we have one step between the payment and the processing of the bank statement. And if we go back to the bank statement itself and we take a look at the journal entries that have been created thanks to the reconciliation, we've updated the account with the transfer account. So let's create a new bank statement. On the Thai bank, when you create the sort code, immediately you can see that the suspense account is proposed, and when you validate the new journal, also the other accounts are immediately proposed. So if we import now statements, or if you use the bank synchronization, so in my case I will just import CSV file, for example, or CODA files. CODA is only for Belgium, but it works with CSV as well, of course. As from the moment that you upload them, you will see that we can immediately reconcile the 6 items, and just by uploading, they are immediately posted and are in the status of the processing. And if we open them, we can see that immediately, because they are in that state, all the transactions are immediately posted against the suspense account. So I did not have to do anything. They are immediately posted against the suspense account. And once I will reconcile them, we will change the suspense account by the correct account. So for example, these are bank costs, ones that I validated. And I validate this one as well as a liquidity transfer. When we go back to the journal entries created, immediately they are replaced. The suspense account is replaced by the correct account. So that's basically it, how it works. Now there is one thing that you should know. You will not be able to close the period if there are still some items in the processing state. So if you go to the log dates, you will be able to lock it for non-advisors. So it's not the big log date, but a small log date, as we say. We'll be able to close it before that date. But if we try to lock it on the big date, you will not be able to lock the big date as long as some items are still in the processing stage. So all journal items on the waiting account must be updated before you can close a period definitely. So that's it for the payments refactoring. Let's go to the second one. It's also a big one. It's about the multi-currency revaluation. What is the purpose of this new report that you will see? If you have some accounts open at the end of the year or at the end of the period that are in a foreign currency on your balance sheet, you need sometimes to reevaluate them based upon that specific date, because you booked the invoices at a specific date, but the date of the invoice can be different, of course, at the closing date. So thanks to this new feature, this new report, you will be able to reevaluate some foreign currencies on a specific date, which is different as the invoice date. What are the advantages? You can immediately automate the process of unrealized gain and losses, because as long as they are on your balance sheet, they are not realized, so they are not linked with the payment yet. Normally, the revaluation is done automatically with the payment, but as long as there is no payment, thanks to this new feature, you can reevaluate them automatically. You don't have to process it manually anymore. You can also have your balance sheet updated at every moment at the official accounting currency, so that your accounting is always up to date for foreign currencies with the currency that is in Odoo. So how does it work? Also here, just click on this little button and you will see the video. So the second video will explain you all about this one. I think it's this one. Okay, let's see how it looks like. So first of all, let's go to the settings, because in the settings, we have to activate the multi-currency and activate some other currencies. I already did it here just to make it easy. So for example, for the pounds, I made a rate as from the 1st of January 1-to-1, and as from the 7th of June, I had a different currency. Let's take for the US dollar as well, so that we have two different currencies. Also here, as from the 1st of January 1-to-1, and after that it's 1.1. So if you go under unrealized gain now, you can see there is nothing proposed. There are no open amounts in foreign currency. So let's create the vendor bill. First of all, we're going to create it in the period before the 7th of June, in order to see that the currency rate will be 1-to-1, because that our currency as from January was 1-to-1. So the same amount in foreign currency will be translated in euro, because in my example, the accounting currency is euro. So we make an invoice in pounds for £1,000. When we validate it, we can see in the journal items that it's €1,000 for £1,000. Let's do the same for an invoice in dollar. Also here, before the date of the 7th June, in order to have the one-on-one. €1, $1. So I make the invoice, perfect. When I validate the invoice, also in the journal items here, I can see $1,000 for €1,000. Now, when I go back to the report, I can see that now we have some accounts to adjust. We have some foreign currencies that are different as the date of today. You can see them immediately by clicking on the rate button. You can jump into the currency here. So at the date of today, the rate is different. So Odoo proposes the rate that it should have in the third column. I can change the rate manually, specifically for this report. When I apply, you will see that the amounts in the balance will be changed automatically. But I can click on the reset to Odoo rates in order to remain to the rates that I had before. So if I'm okay with it, I can click on the adjustment entry in order to make a miscellaneous entry, in order to update my accounts based upon the revaluation on a specific date. In this case, it's on the date of the 31st of July. You can see the impact in the accounting here under. And if you create the entry is posted. You can see the entry right here. Entry is posted, and it will be reversed automatically on the 1st of August. But at this time, I don't have any difference anymore. My balance sheet is updated on the 31st of July. So it's that easy to just update the amounts in foreign currency on a specific date, and it will be reversed always on the first day after, so that you can do it every month, every end of period, and have your accounting always updated based upon the currency differences. Of course, if you pay those invoices later, they will not appear here anymore, because it's only about the unrealized currency gains and losses, not about the realized, which means that they are already paid, they are not open anymore. So it's all about open amounts in foreign currency on your balance sheet. Third one is about the fact that you can now exclude accounts from a tax closing entry. What is the purpose here? Well, in Belgium, for example, we have a lot of taxes that we cannot recover for the full 100%. So, for example, we have cars here. Depending on the car, so an amount of the VAT cannot be recovered. So that's what we can configure easily in our taxes, but it was not possible to exclude the account that was not recoverable anymore from the automated tax closing entry. which basically means that the amount that Odoo calculated to recover from the tax authorities or to pay to the tax authorities was wrong because he did not excluded the amounts of taxes that I cannot recover. So what are the advantages here? You will be able to only reconcile the amounts of taxes that you can recover and pay. You will be able to exclude the accounts for VAT that you need to take in the profit and loss. So how does it work? Also here, you have the little video attached. Let's see how it looks like in Odoo. So first of all, when you go to the taxes, let's take, for example, a tax that is partially non-deductible. We have two lines, 50% non-deductible, 50% deductible. Two different accounts, deductible one on the 411 account, and the other one will follow the expense account of the vendor bill. So when I choose this tax code in an invoice, so let's go for 1,000 euros, which is in total 1,021. If we take this tax code, we can see in the journal items that partially 105 euro is not recoverable anymore because it's an expense. So when we try to close the tax report now, and we go to the tax closing journal entry, Odoo will try to reconcile this amount on your expense account as well as the one that is recoverable. But only one of the two can be recovered. So we want to exclude the expense account from this reconciliation. If you open the column tax closing entry, you can now decide what accounts are excluded from this automatic entry. So just remove the account that you want to exclude. Now let's go back to the journal entry. And thanks to the fact that we excluded the account that is not recoverable, now we only have one of the two, so the amount recoverable is correct because we did not take into account the amount that is an expense. So it's that easy. You can this way exclude some accounts from this automatic entry. I don't know if there are other use cases, but most of all, this is used for partially non-deductible taxes. Next are the accounting list views. You probably already seen them. They are very beautiful everywhere in Odoo. I highlighted some advantages here for the accounting. You are able to see the next activities immediately on the list view, but you also have a view now, a more beautiful view on the due dates. So you can see when they are due today or in the past. They are in red, etc. So it's visibly easier to see when they are due. But also the status now, you can see at the right of my screen, the status is now also different. If you have an invoice in payment or partially paid, it will be immediately visible on the list view, so you can see it immediately and also filter on it. So you can add activities immediately on the list view, and you can immediately click on it in order to validate it or foresee a next activity. You will see immediately the ones that are to do today, that are in the future, and are that were done in the past, thanks to the colors. So it's very easy to see it immediately from one view, from the list view. Notified about the due dates, and also the visual status of the invoice is definitely an advantage for an accountant to see immediately in one glance where this goes to. So I'll let you explore the list views. You will see that they are everywhere in Odoo, so not only in accounting. I just highlighted a little bit the ones that are interesting for accounting. Last but not least, we have some less visible improvements. The first is all about the SEPA files. We now also have the B2B SEPA files. I guess it's only important in Europe, at least that's what I think. And the only difference here is that there are some legal restrictions linked to the refund. I think it's if you use it as B2B, you cannot be refunded. If you go for the core one, which is for B2C, they have X time that they can refuse the payment. So you can immediately select it now on your direct debit mandates in order to create an XML that is for B2B or for B2C. What is also new, and especially for Belgium, we have the ability now to send the electronic invoicing for Belgium. So you can select on the customer journal if you want to print in what type of electronic invoice you want to print the customer invoice. The one for Belgium is the EFFF, and for France, and I think for Germany as well, it's factor X. You can decide to print them in both templates, but of course, most of the time you will select one of the two. So in this version, you can immediately export the XML for the Belgium purposes so that you can send it to your customers. And if their accounting software is compatible with the format, they can just import it and they don't have to process them manually anymore. And finally, in Odoo 13, when you installed the analytic accounting, you did not have the module for the analytical defaults. Now, thanks to this little improvement, once you install the analytic accounting, also the menu for the analytic defaults is installed as well, and you don't have to do it manually anymore. So basically, that was it for the update for Odoo 13.3 and 13.4. I hope you liked it, and I think you should definitely stay tuned for Odoo 14 because we have a lot of new features coming up. So thank you very much and enjoy Odoo accounting.